Hey, we are live right here in Oak Cliff, Texas. All things sports, all things Texas. Today's show is brought to you by FastModelSports.com, located right there in the Windy City, right there on Michigan Avenue. Go take a look and listen at FastModelSports.com, right here at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. All things sports, all things Texas. My main man, freshly retired from Grand Prairie High School, Tom Inman, 29-year UIL basketball coach, state champion in 2005 or six. Six. Right. All right here where we're supposed to be getting it in. Lady Life putting us in the direction and controlling all the process, and on your money pushing the buttons as guided and directed. Hey, here we are giving it to you today's Lone Star Sports Show. Coach, why is there so much sports and politics? Why do politics have to be in sports? Why can't we get around that?
Because of money. It's just real simple. You know Don Oldmeyer was, right?
Dan Oldmeyer?
Don Oldmeyer was the guy. He died. He was the guy who put the CBS. He did the first broadcast of Monday Night Football, and he also did the Olympics.
Did he really?
And when he passed away, before he passed away, he had the famous line one time at a press conference. Somebody said, why did something happen? He says, the answer, as always, is money. And Wilbon quotes him all the time. And I just think that really is. As long as you got a free labor source, in particular with college athletics, and then in the pros, when you have the ability to cut a person with the drop of a hat in football like you do, I mean, I don't know how you could ever separate. I don't know how you could ever pull the greed out of the component.
I guess I agree. I guess 100% with what you're saying. I think the main ingredient that is potentially being left out of what you're saying is, especially at the professional sports level, the free labor thing. I think a business that makes that kind of money, billions of dollars, without having to pay the main labor source of any magnitude, is huge. But I think the thing is that if it's the amount of money being made and the ability for roughly 30, 40, 50 millionaires on one team to be able to address a situation, now someone's listening.
All right, here's a power game for you, right? Everyone gets a choice. Of the last 100 coaches, how many of those people do you think got fired for breaking NCAA rules versus got fired for cheating? I don't know the answer for sure, but I'm pretty sure I could guess. Well, what would you say?
The percentage.
Well, what number out of 100 do you think? If you took the last 100 fired NCAA college basketball coaches, how many do you think got fired for regulation violations?
High percentage, by like 85, 90%.
We're fired for what?
For NCAA violations.
Or losing. Which one?
That's what I'm saying. I think it's like 3%.
You're not understanding.
You're
not understanding.
Okay.
Don't lead the witness.
Okay.
Now. Don't lead the witness.
Losing or NCAA violations.
Yeah,
right. I'm saying if to be fired for losing games or to be a violator, right?
The last 100 guys that were fired.
Oh, that's 100%.
Huh?
If it's losing or violation, that's 100%.
100% what? No, okay, not answering the question. Let me throw the question out there, right? Out of the last 100 college coaches, basketball or football, that were fired,
okay,
were they fired due to, what percentage was fired due to losing and what percentage was fired due to violations?
I say losing 80, 85.
Yeah, okay, you're right on track.
And then 15% violations.
Violations, right.
What would you say, lady? See, in my argument, it might be even a little bit higher. And I did lead the witness on that question, but I think it's even higher because at the end of the day, like we were talking today, me and Alan on the phone about Bruce Pearl, who's a complete scumbag. When I was at Illinois and I left,
okay, we just lost our Bruce Pearl. we just lost our Auburn subscription.
Oh well, sorry about that. Sorry, Bruce.
Hey, Coach, I had nothing to do with that.
Right,
that was this loudmouth high school basketball coach that ain't got no more players no more. That's irrelevant now.
You're right, but he ratted Illinois out. That's the only reason. I don't care about the rest. Now, what I will say is I have no problem with him getting the contract, but my point was that when he got in trouble with the NCAA and he chose to stonewall his own university in the NCAA, he didn't get fired. He got his contract extended.
After he won, though.
Yeah, that's my point. So
I know
the winning is the greatest deodorant in the world. It doesn't matter how much you cheat. And at the end of I guess my point was, if you had to decide, I'm going to play by the rules, like Pete Bell from Blue Chips, or I'm just going to go out and say, screw it, given the fact that you'll probably never get a second chance, that there's so much money, the free labor. I was trying to build the case for the fact that how could you not want to cheat it, even if you're an honorable person?
Well,
there's too much at stake.
Let me flip the script on that. I think that what has transpired with coaches, this is what has evolved to. I think that in the past 10, 15 years, going back, let's say from 2015 back to 2000, I think what you're saying is probably there's a reasonable amount of truth to it. I think what I've encountered and what I've come to understand about the business is that I'm not going to cheat. I'm definitely not going to cheat in any magnitude that's going to get me fired.
Well,
now, hear me out. I'm definitely not going to cheat in any magnitude that's going to get me fired. If I do something, it's going to be a secondary violation tops, because I can make enough money in this business for not winning. By the time they figure out I'm no good as a coach, or they think I'm no good as a coach, I can go ahead and live happily ever after on the $10 million that I made during the process. Now, so I think a lot of guys have evolved and turned to that. And I just want to defend my college coaching buddies or whatever. Did you see it? Man, that shit ain't worth getting fired over. And I hate to use profane language. I apologize. But, I mean, that's a big part of what's starting to happen.
Well, and I probably should qualify what I even said about Pearl. I'm not blowing smoke up everyone's ass and kissing his ass, but what I am saying is in 1985, that was an obscene violation of the code, where in 2010 or 2015, it's 30 years later in a whole different world. And I'm not trying to rationalize saying, well, I can murder somebody because other people murdered somebody. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, people do cheat their butts off because there's too much there. Well, there's too much there. There's too roll over risk. The chances of getting caught.
In definition, most people say when you're cheating, you're going out and giving somebody $100,000 for a player. That's the number one thing people look at as cheating. But whether or not you're fudging the log, the recruiting log, how many times you're out. Now they just stopped. It's amazing. The same thing that Kelvin Sampson, who once appeared on this show back in the beginning of the season, had a great year at the University of Houston, was fired at Indiana for something that's totally legal now. But and I'm not trying to justify what he did, but just the fact that at that point in time they were checking text messages and calls and things right there. And after that, they fire him and try to destroy his career, which he has bounced back incredibly with a great NBA career, and then back over to the NCAA and taking the University of Houston Cougars to the Sweet 16 this year. They turn around now. That's unlimited, what he was doing.
Right.
And guys have always done it, burner phones and things of that nature, and calling kids. It's kind of like sin. Which sin is bigger? Is it a big sin, or a little sin, or
well, that's my point about evolving over the years.
Is it a white lie, or all lies?
See, I used to be a real black and white person as far as that issue. You're either cheating or you're not cheating. Mm-hmm. And if you're cheating at all, you may as well commit a murder. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe that anymore, because at the end of the day, the easiest way to cheat is to funnel money to third parties. That's why it doesn't matter about AAU basketball, because if you cleaned up AAU basketball, they'll just give the money to your girlfriend. If you ever want to watch the movie He Got Game, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's plenty of scenarios, and we're going to talk more about that down in the show as we move along. But the thing that just kind of blows me away is the amount of political nature that sports is getting involved with now. There's no separation between DC and the gridiron and the hardwood floor. If an athlete becomes a $50 million plus career type guy, he automatically has political influence. And whether he chooses to exercise it or not, he has it. And some below that. Go ahead, Coach.
Even on a smaller scale locally, think about one thing that's set up by the shoe companies. And I'm not demonizing them, because I had to deal with Nike for a long time, for 13 years. But when you tell only 2 teams in each major city maximum are going to get an EYBL slot, and it can be fully sponsored, it creates a cutthroat aspect right there, which again politicizes that, because now who's on board for you? Who's helping you out? Ray Allen makes a phone call for Kevin Ollie, gets fired over it, and that's why they're trying to keep his money, is because he used an alum. Well, that's what everyone does. That's the essence of recruiting.
And various forms, it's supposed to be illegal now, and it just bounces around all over the table. But, and the exact content that you're hearing from both Tom and myself now is the reason that you need to be tuned in the second hour, because we're going to dive into that a whole lot deeper. It's just the front end side of it with the kneeling, and I think Adam Silver's doing a tremendous job of navigating the political waters in sports, where your guy, the
Oh,
Goodell.
don't call him my guy, Goodell. Ooh, don't call him my guy because we look alike.
Adam Silver doesn't look like anybody.
Hey, but you know, one of the things, just real briefly, one of the biggest differences was the basketball players don't feel like anything's being stuffed down their throat because they collectively bargained the rule that said we'll agree not to kneel.
Well, I mean,
and you're basically stuffing this down the throat of a bunch of football players post hoc. You're doing it after the fact, and then you're even, you're changing the narrative after the fact
they got to.
It's
right.
revisionist history now.
And so I mean, I just think there's a certain amount of responsibility, or a certain amount of accountability, or just opportunity that comes with an athlete to influence. You take Michael Jordan, love him as a player, but when you start looking at him in comparison to Bill Russell, you start looking at him in comparisons to Jim Brown and these guys right here, Muhammad Ali's, guys that took on and didn't forget where they came from. Am I saying Michael forgot where he came from? I think he just reclused into his own personal selfish agendas.
Probably. That's fair.
Playing golf every day and saying
making
$1
million a week and having fun.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And go ahead.
But let me ask you a hypothetical question.
And we're about to go to break.
When you take a guy like Jerry Jones, let's just say Jerry Jones woke up one day and did a 180. He decided that he was going to come be the most liberal owner in the league, okay? And he was going to say, okay, guys, do whatever the hell you want to do. I don't give a damn. Do you really think that if those guys kneeled, that they still wouldn't sell 80,000 tickets? Because I think you could sell 80,000. They put such a crap product out there anyway. I mean, the Cowboys have put shit out there for 20 years, and he keeps packaging that anyway.
Everybody keeps saying it has a lot to do with their bottom line, but in actuality, I'm kind of like Stephen A. Smith on this deal. The biggest thing that might be affecting football right now, and mainly with the women, are the concussions.
And the antitrust violation that the owners are playing for.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's preposterous that a league that prints money operates as a not-for-profit organization. That's preposterous.
Hey, we'll be back with more Lone Star Sports Show. Today's show is brought to you by Fast Small Sports. This particular segment was brought to you by Hartem Hotels. Hartem Hotels located in the heart of Houston, right there in the Bayou City. Hartem Hotels development and investment properties are located there. Go take a look at HartemHotels.com and hear more about and see more about what's going on. Put your money where you sleep. Go see and find a safe investment at a reasonable rate that gives a person the opportunity to stash an egg. Back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show.
Hartem Hotels. Make money where you and millions of others spend money. Hartem Hotels Investment and Development Group's primary disciplines include hotel acquisitions, hotel development, hotel project management, as well as asset and partnership management. At Hartem Hotels, we invest in upscale focused service and extended stay hotel properties, mainly in Texas and other major urban markets. We are hotel owners, developers, investors, and asset managers persistent in our pursuit of successful ventures and passionate about our products. We provide nationally branded investment opportunities, including Hilton, Marriott, and Hyatt hotel franchises. Hartem Hotels strategically places the right product in the right location for the right customer. Get started with us today. Visit us online at www.hartemhotels.com. Hartem Hotels, put your money where you sleep.
Hey, here we are rolling back in for segment number 2 with the Lone Star Sports Show right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Y'all chime in on YouTube and hit share that all of you that are chimed in on YouTube. That's where you can learn more about the Lone Star Sports Show and follow the process and stay in tune and up to date when all the various topics are coming in and doing what they're doing. Today's show is brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. Just as we broke away from the deal, you know, a lot of people on the front end of it, I even kind of bought in a little bit too. A lot of people on the front end of the kneeling deal said, oh, well, man, it's these guys, it's conservative America, and they got too many people paying tickets, they're going to lose so much money by doing that. And, you know, initially I was well into, what do I want to say, in line with that, if you will. I agreed with it. But at the same time, I thought about everything else that's going on in this country. Liberal is making a lot of money. So what's going to be the difference in people voicing their opinions, political opinions? There are more political left-wing people than there are people right-wing, and the right-wing people obviously feel like they have the goal and make the rule according to the golden rule. But I think I don't think that it really comes down like that, you know, in the whole thing, because now we've gotten to a point, as conservative and as Republican or as right-wing as you are, they're taking on right-wing people are taking on left-wing type habits. And you say, what's wrong with that line? Look at the first lady who walks down there with a jacket on that says, I don't care, or whatever it says. Lady probably knows exactly what it said. But with the jacket that she had on, the first lady, you know, familiar with it, I think she said something along the lines of who cares, or I don't care, or something. Yeah, so that's, yeah, I don't care that you care.
I don't care, do you?
Yeah, I don't care, yeah, something like that, along those lines. She voiced opinion that she didn't care. But that's a left-wing type policy or type way of going about things, somewhat maybe voicing what we might say a conservative, more right-wing type perspective on things. The thing is that right now I think right-wing, left-wing rivalries sell as good as anything else in this country.
Well, if you throw red meat between two dogs, they'll fight over it, even if they're smart dogs.
Yeah.
They'll do that. And you know, I just made a note to myself. You know, I always find it ironic that whenever white people get subsidies, we call it social programs. Whenever black and brown people do it, it's called welfare. What do you call the tax exemption for multi-billion-dollar organizations? If an NFL football team doesn't pay taxes, that's the biggest tax subsidy in the history of the world. And we paid, and we're so stupid in Arlington, and I will say that straight up. I live in Arlington, and we have a bunch of idiots living in this town because we subsidized a rich guy who comes in 8 football games and all the concerts he can steal, backs up the Brinks truck, and takes all his money up to Prosper and Frisco where he's building. He isn't doing shit around AT&T Stadium. And at the end of the day, that is the biggest social program I've ever seen. And that's not going to stop because it's football. We're going to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. So give me a break, man. Yeah. And if you idiots out there keep buying these tickets, Tom, you have no self-respect.
Tom, you're right. If and you live in Arlington, and I visit it from time to time. Never thought about it like that. When you look at the growth and what's going on in Prosper and Frisco and what's being propelled there, and I mean, now on the flip side, where I would justify that with, not necessarily justify, but somewhat explain away, there's a lot of development, a lot going on with the overall demographics in the Frisco and in that Prosper area.
And that's a nice way of saying that that brown and black people and poor white people like me live over in Arlington and the rich people live up there, because I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to take a video tour around. I live over by AT&T Stadium. There's a Walmart. There are grungy title-owned places. There are pawn shops. There's abandoned body shops. There's not shit being developed. And it was a really funny story. It was a while back. Somebody was making fun of Jerry, and they said, "Why did you set up your stadium so your receivers have to look back into the light?"
I've heard that story, maybe from you.
He said, "Well, you just don't know what we're doing. You just don't have any idea of the big picture." Well, it's been 7 years, and the same ghetto bullshit is still all over this place.
Well, there's been 7 years, and the sun is still in the receiver's eyes.
Exactly. You could put felt curtains down and just acknowledge you made a mistake, or you could have been smart in the first place and sobered up and turned it running north and south.
But when you're talking about a shrewd guy like a Jerry Jones,
how do you miss that detail?
No, he ain't missed nothing. That was said probably in the context of a conversation where that was something that was politically needed to be said and made him look really, really good when he walked out of that press conference or that staging or what situation he may have been in.
Well, he's on welfare as far as I'm concerned because I pay for it. I pay for his welfare.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a form of it. I mean, that kind of goes back to your initial analogy of what do you call welfare? What do you call subsidies and grants and all these different things that are utilized by wealthy people to avoid paying taxes or to gain access to social, certain economic growth type things.
Well, who was Arlington bidding against? They bid against themselves when they bid for the Cowboys because Dallas couldn't throw a bid and they had no money, right? They weren't financially able to do that.
No,
Erven gave up on them because they didn't like the deal. So you were bidding against nobody.
Well, they were bidding against one of the shrewdest businessmen in the state of Texas or in the Southwest region. Jerry Jones is who they were bidding against,
and he played him like a piano.
Right.
And my point, I was making a comment about earlier. I was telling Ani, I'm a Bears fan, and the Bears have gone from Super Bowl champs when I was 25 to really, really sucking badly. But the difference is,
you were 25 in 1985.
I mean, it's been a long time.
I remember that.
I know that. I went to New Orleans. I bartended until 2:30 in the morning and drove all night long to New Orleans to watch that damn game. And at the end of the day, when the Bears really suck, we don't go. If the Bears really suck, we just don't go. We make fun of them. We sit in a bar, but we won't buy their tickets. And we sit there and we say, does anyone really think that McCaskey's dumbass? Is McCaskey really dumb enough to think that we're going to spend our hard-earned money to go sit in the cold to watch this bullshit? Yeah. And nobody will do that in Dallas. I'd like to see what would happen if Jerry took a real liberal approach. He'd still sell 80,000 tickets. They'd go sit in that stadium to eat lunch.
Yeah. And he may not be worried about his 80,000 tickets. He may be worried about his
corporate sponsors.
His corporate sponsors.
Next level. Next level of the onion as you peel layer by layer, right?
Yeah, and that's the other angle on that deal. But back to we talking about both sides of the sports and politics and how they both work in. Let's move back over to football. It's football season as far as concerned. The preseason of determining the off season. We're roughly about, I think, two weeks before camp opens up. Not even that long. I think we're roughly maybe 4 or 5 days before the official camp opens up. And so, I mean, the question has to be offensively. Right now, you can say defensively, the Cowboys are middle of the road, stable defense. Is where they are right now. And when you look at offensively, we got a solid quarterback, Dak Prescott, going into year 3, going through the sophomore blues. I think they'll go back to some of the more fundamentally sound things that are stable, simplistic offenses that take a little less pressure off of him decision-wise, or put him in a lot less high-pressure situations to have to make certain decisions in the deal, more might say conservative, type deals. But when you got a running back like Zeke Elliott, you can afford that. Now, we know that the Cowboys are in a situation where they potentially have top 5 in the league offensive line, maybe top 2 or 3 in the league.
When everyone's healthy, yeah, for sure.
Everybody's coming back healthy, and they beefed it up with some and got it. And I've took a good look at where we are. But the real question falls in on, can they throw the ball or not?
Well, one of the things I've always wondered about is I go back to Plano when I coached all the way back in the late 80s, early 90s, right? Mm-hmm. And you had Tommy Kimbrough, who was, running a first down, 3 yards to the right, 3 yards to the left, 3 yards up the middle, maybe fake a punt once a month, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing that always bothered me was a team like that has a hard time adjusting because the only thing harder than throwing the football is throwing when everyone knows you're going to throw it. The only thing harder than running the football is when everyone knows you're going to run it. And I just think there's
called balanced attack.
Yeah, exactly. There's got to be some sort of an element of
surprise.
But
here's it's a chicken or the egg. Does the run open up the pass, or does the pass open up the run?
I think the pass opens up the run, and I think too often they abandon it, and that's one of the biggest problems at times. Because one of my philosophies, I just believe in old school football.
I got one better for you than that.
You might get nothing out of your first 12 runs, but you might rip that 13th and 15th one, and it pays dividends.
You got to have a right kind of defense to do that too.
Right.
And with the real, what the real answer is to that?
What's that?
What the chicken and the whole egg thing is that either one has the potential to give you success.
Right.
If it's a productive one.
Joe Montana used the pass to set up the run.
A productive run will create the pass, and a productive pass will create the run.
Right.
So this is what I'm saying that we're going into it. Then being a Dallas Cowboy fan, and this is what we are going into is that there are enough receivers. I love bringing on the kid from out with the Los Angeles Rams, Tavon Austin, who has good speed, has not a big time separation guy. Bringing back a Terrence Williams, and then you turn back around and you bring all 5'8", 170 pounds of Cole Beasley. Right. Cole Beasley is a local product guy, isn't he?
Little M.
Little M. Okay,
school, yep.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So when you bring all that back and weigh it back into there, those guys are productive enough. Now you come back in, and I think it's crazy. Do you realize that the Cowboys have 11 guys in for what's going to be happening in the camp, and then they got another 5 tight ends. Now I think between Jeff Swain and the young kid that's a rookie from Stanford, I think those 2 guys, a little bit more of a run blocking guy. Ricardo Gathers has let me down because I'm a basketball guy. He was a big time basketball player.
Yeah, I was hoping for more out of him too.
Yeah, I thought more out of him. And big guy, athletic, do all these things. He should figure it out, but he didn't, and hasn't, and probably will get cut. Is the way the direction is going on that deal. But Jeff Swain may be good enough. He may be good enough. These other 3 guys may be good enough to win football games. You've got to have the ability, obviously, to score the ball, but in the grand scheme of all 32 teams, I think the Cowboys have the ability to be a top 10 to top 8 offense in the NFL.
We may have to come back to this when we come back from the break if we have to, but one thing I'd like to address is this. I've been saying for the last 5 years with Tony Romo that one of the biggest disservices everyone did to the Cowboy fans was giving Tony Romo a completely blank check to call off and check off to anything he wanted. And I'll explain a little bit more later. I see telling us we gotta go.
Yeah, I don't think it takes a whole lot to explain that. It was pretty clear exactly what went on. But we're right here on the Lone Star Sports Show. Today's show is brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. This particular segment was brought to you by Fast Recruit. Fast Recruit is a product of Fast Small Sports, located right there in Chicago, Illinois. It leads college coaches all over the country and all over the globe in tracking recruits in both the scholastic and non-scholastic seasons, the way they keep track of all the social media, game schedule, and all that's going on. Constantly incorporating more technology into the basketball process. We like to say right here at the Lone Star Sports Show that Fast Small Sports is leading basketball into the 21st century through the vehicle of technology. Back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Remember, all things sports, all things Texas. Back here with segment 3 right here at the Lone Star Sports Show, right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Tom Emma and Alan Branch, Lady Life, and my main man at the wheel of the whole operation, Under the Prince, Umani right there, giving it to you like it is from the 5-State Hoop Report and junior editor for Texas Grassroots, TexasBoysBasketball.com. We're right here at the Lone Star Sports Show, chopping up some football, gridiron. Here we are. Closing out June, now running straight down to the end of June, so football is getting hotter and hotter. Just a few days being in the official training camp with all your NFL teams. Sports that matter in Texas. Is basketball something that we do while we're waiting on football to start? That used to be said. I think we've evolved from that. But I think right now, basketball and football dominate this state.
Well, it's kind of insulting because everyone says football's first, then spring football second, then basketball's fifth, and then baseball and track and all that stuff is just when you get around to it, and that's insulting to all of us who put a lot of time in. But on the other hand, there's a shred of truth to that because nobody buys tickets for English competitions, right?
No, there's no doubt about that. I mean, that's too extreme, but there is no doubt about that. But I think now that basketball has become so in vogue because you're dealing with a younger demographic right now. And basketball, let's admit it, basketball is sexier than football. And one of the reasons that it is sexier than football, because the dude's got a helmet behind a cage. You can't see him. All you can see his name is on his back. That's why, once again, one of those controlling moves. Remember they made it a fine to pull your helmet off during the celebration? Because now you're selling your face. And they don't want you to sell the face in the NFL.
And there's very few people who are recognizable in a bar or something. In fact, most NFL players, I'd be willing to bet that a large percentage of the people who are recognized in public are recognized just because they're big.
Yeah, right. He
no
must
other
play
reason
football.
They're just huge. He must play football. Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and it works that way. If you're tall, he must play basketball. I mean, anytime a guy walks in at 6'10" or bigger, we feel like he must have some type of basketball
Wouldn't that
background.
be horrible to be 6'11" and not even like basketball? Wouldn't that be torturous? Because everyone and their brother's going to ask you their whole life.
Yeah, it never goes away.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, the same thing we look at as a blessing can be a curse too. There's two sides to everything in the whole process. But when we break it down and take a look at it, how did Texas fare in the draft? They had roughly 14, 15 ways to be interacted with it. I think it was six players were taken that were Texas guys, and roughly of the 6 players that were taken that were Texas guys that went to multiple places, 8 of our teams in the state of Texas got draft picks. So there were 8 players that were drafted. Obviously, we always start with the top Mavericks. They were really basement, as we used to say back in the old days when Cowboy Snoop was around. They were in the bottom group, and they were so far in the bottom group until they were able to get, a guy like a Luke Doncic. I don't want to slaughter your name. I haven't even met you yet, but I'm impressed with everything that I've seen about him. He's not your stereotypical space playing, soft finesse type.
He's not Dirk.
Guy.
He's not Dirk.
No,
I mean Dirk's a great player, but Dirk is soft, and Dirk's a finesse guy. There's no one to argue
well,
that.
yeah, you can call it soft. I call it finesse type guy, and some people may want to call it soft. Chicago guy like you.
I wish he dunked on people more, but then again, on the other hand, he played for 18 years, and he doesn't need my approval.
No, he doesn't need your approval. No, I'm going to agree with you on that one.
I don't want anyone to think I'm full of myself. I'm just commenting. That's all.
Yeah, but I think Luke was exactly what they needed. They needed a versatile, dynamic scorer with some youth, and I think he created enough buzz. I think it was as much appreciation as I have for the young fella from Oklahoma, with Trey Young, right? As much as I appreciation it was, they swapped the pick out and he ended up at Atlanta. I feel like they possibly maybe sell a equal amount of tickets, create an equal amount of buzz, maybe. Maybe Trey is a little bit more local, the Oklahoma group. I don't know if that's a big enough group. We talk about Trey Young. Trey Young was really like a Texas kid. He spent a lot of time. Right. We knew him.
Dad played at Tech.
Tech, it was always around. Father used to tease me, man, we need to move to Texas. I bet you could do a better job of covering Trey than we're able to get done in Oklahoma. And I was always the advocate for Trey. So, I missed out on an opportunity. I remember getting really excited and and getting unexcited, shortly after that, because it would be exciting to have his father around. Father was a nice guy. We bring him on the show and talk about how things are going, and just being around to support him. I hope everything goes well there at Atlanta. He's going to get a lot of opportunity at Atlanta, but back to Texas. I don't think Dallas made a bad decision.
Well, I think there's a little bit of a parallel path with Dirk in the sense that, I mean, I don't want to. I always hate when people always comp a white player to white and black to black. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking more along the lines of European to European than white to white. The idea that Dirk was a great part of the community. They played for one team for 18 or 20 years, whatever it was. The idea that I'm sure he'll really support Doncic. Mm-hmm. The idea that they're in a rebuild. They need to sell some tickets. They need to get the buzz back. Because the thing about the Cowboys is the Mavericks. The Mavericks are kind of like an L.A. crowd because they do need to win to get that buzz back and fill that place up. Otherwise, it becomes –
they're not the Dallas Cowboys. Mark Cuban has done a tremendous job with them, but they're still not the Dallas Cowboys.
And I think he's smart enough to understand that.
It's not, and you got to realize what you see going on with the Dallas Cowboys is not all because of Jerry Jones. I mean, Jerry Jones has raised the value. He caught the thing at the right time. But you got to remember the old Clinton Murkisons and all those guys that owned the Cowboys back in the day when Tom Landry was here. That's when the whole Cowboy thing got to be the Cowboy thing. That's the same thing that just really hurts Houston, is losing the Houston Oilers and Love You Blue, and my man taking them out of there, then having to turn around and rebuild from 1999 or 98 or whenever that was, back into everything that what the Houston Texans have become. So go ahead.
Oh, just the other day I watched that Pony Excess, the 30 for 30 documentary about Dallas, and I know you discussed that earlier. And what I found interesting was that the historical timeline was, we were trying to get over the black eye of Kennedy's assassination. Then the Cowboys sucked, and then the Cowboys were getting better, and then SMU was like the surge toward Dallas. And the thing that really lit the bonfire was the show Dallas. So you had the show Dallas, so you got a lot of free publicity that way. Just like, how many baseball fans do you know that like the Atlanta Braves or the Chicago Cubs? And the only reason is when they were little kids, they had TBS or WGN. Mm-hmm. And that was how they got to watch baseball games. Cubs, right. You're more likely to see that game than to watch Cleveland or to watch the Mets or something like that.
Yeah. I think there's always a reasonable amount of truth. I mean, we tend to like what we see, or that's what we have to choose from.
Right.
But I mean, the Dallas Cowboys have a long time deal. But back to where we are and stand on track with the NBA draft, I'm okay. I'll give the grade for Dallas selecting Luke. I'm going to give it a B+.
I'm fine with that.
What do you think, honey?
Yeah, I would give it a B+, A-.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
I really like it. I mean, I like compared with Dennis Smith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Harrison Barnes, Dennis Smith. Now you got wing guys that can space out, make plays. Right. This should create more space for Harrison.
And just go to free agency, get a center. That's going to be the more interesting part, is what Dallas does at the center position.
And you made a comment about Snoop talking about, I think he broke the NBA into thirds, and I've always looked at it that way. The bottom third, middle third, top third. Mm-hmm. Top third goes to the playoffs and competes. The middle third is stuck in mediocrity, and the bottom third is so bad they got a chance to clean up, which is why people really shouldn't let people tank.
And I think it was I give it a B+ because yes, they trade next year's pick if it's top 5 protected, but next year is considered a lot weaker draft. So if you give up a pick, you're not really how they look at it. You're not really losing anything.
Go ahead.
Can you clarify one
thing? The pick doesn't have as much value because of the draft pool being
right.
And you have a chance next year to get more out of a trade or out of free agency than you're going to get out of the draft.
Yeah, right.
Can you clarify for me and probably some of the people watching the show, top 5 protected means that if their pick next year is in the top 5, they just push that pick to the next year. Is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
All right. So they're not going to get anything above 5.
Right.
It'll be 6 below. Mm-hmm. And that's why they mocked the hell out of what's his name in Brooklyn when he gave away those unprotected picks for Paul Pierce and
Billy
Kevin
King.
Garnett, because Billy's an idiot. All he had to do was ask. That's all he had to do. And Matt works for Billy. So Billy, if you're watching, don't fire Matt.
Got a chance to visit with the guys down in Miami today on the San Antonio pick, Lonnie Walker. Like him a lot, based on trusted sources and the information I got of what he was. Freak athlete, real true 3-and-D type guy, not a high IQ passer. Lots of ability. So I think he's a good Greg Popovich piece of how playing without the ball, doesn't demand the ball, can make plays, is going to use his toughness, his athleticism, and his motor to be a part of it. Larry Larnega said he would like for him
Larnega
said he would like for him to have rebounded better.
Right.
But ability is no doubt a one and done kid. So, if San Antonio Spurs take you after 1 year of college, then R.C. Buford and company have definitely done a good job of evaluating the talent.
Well, for people who don't know who R.C. Buford is, he's been the GM down there forever. Him and Popovich are a staple.
Played at Oklahoma State, played at Texas A&M,
right.
Went into college coaching just for a little while and jumped on board.
Those guys are like the Belichick of basketball. There's a stability to them. You can
great comparison.
You can like them or not like them. You
Well,
can like them or not
we
like
just
them.
got, you just got you another week extension right
All
there
right,
with that statement
So
right
coming
there.
back after
Belichick
vacation, guys. No, but it's very Belichick-esque because they're about
you got an
production.
extension right there. Yeah, that's a. I mean, I've heard a lot of things said. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever made that comparison.
Hey, when I went to watch Burkhead play this year. I was in the facility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you walk in there's a sign that says no photographs. And I would have loved it because there was a sign with 5 little simple things, and one of them was, get over yourself, don't believe the hype, tune the noise out, just like real simple shit. Mm-hmm. Simple things, but Belichick gets you to do it, and it's going to be interesting, because a lot of his assistants haven't done all that well, just like not all of Popovich guys have always done so well.
Yep.
But it's still there's very good comparison. I think.
I love the game of basketball. He done really, really well. He said the Pop is his.
He done very, very good for himself.
Yeah. Down there at Alabama, roll tide.
Hey man, I tell you what, Colin Sexton needs to throw about 15% of everything he makes for the next 10 or 15 years to LeBron or Rich Paul or somebody, because that might have been the next. I mean, Colin might be a great player, but he might be J.R. Smith. He might be Tristan Thompson on the puffed up contract to piss off his owner. Who knows? That's going to be interesting.
When we come back, we're going to examine potentially what may be the best fit out of all the Texas kids picked or NBA franchises picking players inside of the state of Texas. We come back, we're going to look at this Brooklyn Robert Williams situation. I'm going to tell you why, and we'll see what Tom has to be about it. Right here on the Lone Star Sports Show. All things sports, all things Texas. Today's show is brought to you by FastMallSports.com. This particular segment was brought to you by the Lone Star Top 100 Camp, who continue to beef up and grow, looking to project 60, 70 Division I coaches. Going to be a great outing right there at Drive Nation, DFW Airport. Going to be a good outing July the 11th and 12th. You're welcome to come out and look once we start playing games. Back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show. Tom Emman, Alan Branch, Lady Life, and my main man, Honey the Prince. Hey, here we are back here at the Lone Star Sports Show right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Today's show is brought to you by FastModelSports.com. Giving it to you like it is. This particular segment is going to be brought to you by Indy Hoops. Indy Hoops is rolling into the state of Texas, getting it all the way on. I think we got roughly 12 Texas teams out of, 25 national teams. We're going to Drive Nation, Pro Skills, Dallas Mustangs, Houston Hoops, RL9, YGC36, TJ Ford, Elite, Team Breakdown.
Buckner.
Team Buckner. I have no idea about them. Is that the big Buckner that played down there? Probably so. Yeah, he got a team.
Yeah, it's Greg Buckner's team.
Yeah, right. Greg Buckner's team and Austin Defenders and Houston Flight and ATX Elite. Well, I don't do much time, and I'm going back to the draft and Robert Williams. I don't spend much time watching 7th and 8th graders, but I have seen the TJ Ford Elite 7th grade team. And this is not because they're really good right now, but my projection, I can project every kid out on there, whether they're going to be 6'1", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9". That's the type of team. He doesn't have these full-grown men at 12 and 13 years old.
Right.
He's got kids that project out in crazy length. Shooting is at a premium on their team. A very interesting team to go and watch. They're going to be out at Drive Nation this weekend with Indy Hoops, which is a national group that brings in 7th and 8th graders, and which I think is a little crazy. And I don't watch 7th and 8th graders, but they've invited me out. And actually, guess what? The Lone Star Sports Show is going to be live at Drive Nation on Thursday. Yeah,
next week.
That's where this week. That's where you're going to be going.
Okay, Drive Nation. This
Thursday.
Thursday.
You're going to be looking at 7th and 8th graders too.
There we go. I'm in.
You might even have you
pick me, coach. Put me in the game. I'm in, man. Let's go.
We're gonna have Tom interviewing some of the 7th graders.
I'm going to do my Clark Francis invitation. I'll leave that one alone.
Well, back to the topic of the hour, the best picks for Texas kids into the NBA and the best pick for NBA teams that are inside of Texas and the players they were able to get. I'm going to venture to say, and I skip right over Zaire Smith, who's been on this show I'm really high on, because I'm comparing the two picks. I think the Robert Williams kid, which is a Shreveport, northern Louisiana kid, Natchez, I think maybe, or whatever it is, in New Louisiana, where Robert Williams is from, and obviously our local Zaire Smith, may have gone, as far as the Texas stuff is going on, may have been some of the best fits into what is already going on. These kids may have some of the best opportunity. It can be rough to make the NBA when you go somewhere where you don't fit, or you go somewhere where they're so bad until you can't be good in the middle of all the bad.
Well, one of the ironies of the NBA draft is when you start getting down to about the 21st through the 24th pick, everyone's rear end gets real tight because you're starting to look at the end of the guaranteed contracts, but you're also looking at the good teams. I mean, look at the bottom up. I mean, well, it's not exclusive, but you get
it gets tricky when they get through moving around.
Philadelphia, because some of that's trade outs.
Okay, yeah, I mean, look at Boston. I mean, Boston was really, really good.
Robert Williams, that's got to be the greatest thing that ever happened to Robert Williams and his family, because he's going to a team that's going to be competitive for 10 years, and if he stays healthy, he'll have a great career. I love Robert Williams.
And he has a crazy opportunity there that he has a place to go and do what he does well, that doesn't have a lot of pressure on it, and play a major role in the team's success.
I got another comp. You're going to have to extend my contract one more week, okay? If you add 2 inches.
Here we go.
Oh, come on now.
Get my agent in here.
You ready for this?
Lady Life, when she got that pen, she take all the notes.
All right, add 2 inches to his height. And who is he that came from Centenary and went to Boston for a lot of years?
Wow. And they offer almost the same place, Robert Parrish. Yeah.
He went in and he was willing to do the dirty work. He
that's really. I got something to tell you that you're going to really, really like, and that doesn't get you maybe another week. That gets you about 3 days. That's pretty good though.
All right, I'll settle for that.
3 days, so it'll be better than nothing. Yeah, but there's a reasonable amount of comparisons there. I don't even think it's that much. Yeah, it's a little bit, about 2 inches. You're right about the size.
But the idea that he doesn't have to go in and do much. Robert Parrish wasn't supposed to be a great player. I mean, when Robert Parrish
and the fact that they're at Boston too at the same time.
Yeah, they're fitting into a team that had a good base.
Yeah,
you're going. Gordon Hayward's your Larry Bird.
You got everybody.
Erven is your.
No, the guy that you got is to me the face of that whole deal is the kid from Duke, Jason Collins. What's Jason's last name?
Tatum's
right.
a stud.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and I hope they sign Marcus Smart, but he might be too expensive. I don't know.
Yeah,
he wants a lot more money than they might be willing to pay.
I love Marcus to death, and he's a great teammate. He's a tough guy, good basketball IQ. But from a basketball business perspective, they could survive with or without him.
Right.
But Robert Williams can walk in, fit in there, play a large, be in the full-blown rotation as a freshman and do what he does and be a major contributor.
Well, and you got to look at this. Look how cost-effective he becomes. Because again, I love Marcus Smart too. Don't get me wrong. I love that kid at every level he's ever played at.
Yeah.
But if he's $12 to $14 million, and Robert Williams
They
is going
said
to be
16
about
to 18. Well,
16 to 18, but that's even more insane because you're getting Robert Williams at what, $2 million max?
Max.
Maybe you might
Because he lost. He could have gone last year and he'd have been a lottery pick.
Right.
If he'd come out last year.
Right, but if you think about the cost effectiveness, and at some point in time, everyone's a diminishing asset. No one wants to be treated like a dog because we're not dogs, we're not horses, but everyone's one injury away. Give me, at some point in time, everything's got to be replaced.
No, there's no doubt about that. And then now you got a kid like our own hometown boy right here, Zaire Smith, who goes out and goes to Elite Eight and gets drafted at number 16. And I think I always projected him at, I said 16 to 20, 16 to 24, 18. But he landed right in there where he was. But deal is he gets traded to the Philadelphia 76ers within minutes or seconds of the time that he's picked by Phoenix, wasn't it? Wasn't it Phoenix who was picked to initially?
Yes.
Yeah, and they flip with the kid whose mother works for the HR
Michael
department of Philly.
Michael Bridges, yeah. Well, he was in.
Did you hear what happened to that poor kid? He goes into a press conference. He goes in there and holds a press conference, and by the time he walks out of the press conference, he's been traded. Everyone in the room knows it but him. Because everyone's got a phone. Poor kid. And he thinks he's going home. Grew up in Philly, played at Villanova. My mama works for the Sixers, and I get to play with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Or not. Not.
For 2 minutes.
Yep, or not.
For 2 minutes. Now,
tough.
Here's the great fit about Zaire. Zaire doesn't need the basketball in his hand. So he's got all this great basketball. There's a lot of talent with the Philadelphia right now.
Right.
He got all this great basketball around that he can just live off of. See, when you go, I'm not comparing him to Dennis Rodman, but when you look at Dennis Rodman, you know how Dennis Rodman became great? Because he was around great players, and what he needed did not take away. It only complemented what the great players did.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that.
And that's what you're going to see with Zaire right here. Is Zaire doesn't need the ball. He's going to rebound the basketball. If he's open his shoes, he defends. He's going to do all the things, jumping past the lane, get steals, do all the stuff that needs to be done at a high, maybe a top 5% of athletes in the whole NBA in the league. And doing it at that level, he's going to fit in right there. So in my opinion, out of the 14 transactions that took place on last Thursday night, but either between Texas NBA teams or kids that played in Texas that went to other NBA teams, those are the two best fits. Go ahead, Coach.
I saw a guy give a speech about 10 years ago. It was the greatest speech I ever saw, and it was called The Other 29 Minutes. Because in a high school game, you got 4 8-minute quarters, 32 minutes. And his premise was that the average basketball player has the ball in his hands for 3 minutes.
Wow, that sounds awfully familiar.
All right, so what he's saying is, what do you do the other 29 minutes when you don't have the ball in your hands? And that's exactly what you're talking about with Zaire. It's exactly what you're talking about with Robert Williams. A ball-dominant person doesn't get to share the ball with Russell Westbrook. If you need the ball, don't go to Russ. Don't go to play in Houston. Don't go anywhere where
that's a true basketball for all you young players out there listening. And they've heard me say that. If there is one kid that's been to camp or been anywhere in the sound of Alan Branch's voice, he's asked him a question. If the coach put you in the game for 10 minutes and you're in the game for 10 minutes, how many of those 10 minutes, how many of those minutes you predict you have the ball actually in your hand? And some of them was pretty smart. They'll say 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I said, well, what coach you think is going to leave you in the game for the other 7 minutes for you to stand around and watch everybody else play?
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
And that's where all this comes in and lines up. Jalen Brunson to Dallas. I like it. You familiar with Jalen?
Yeah.
Point guard at Villanova. Right.
I would say it was funny. I talked to my friend who works for Brooklyn, and what we were talking about is he's either the bottom of the starting guard type of guard, or he's a really good backup, and you don't really know where he fits on that one. If he could be a good backup to Smith, to Dennis Smith, that'd be great. But I'm not sure if you can play them both, and I'm not sure there's much point in playing them both.
Well, I think that anytime he reminds me, I think he'll have a career like a DJ Augustine.
But he's a lot more physical. Yeah, I would agree. He's got to find something else to do besides score the ball because he's kind of ball dominant. So he's going to have to prove that at least at the next level he's going to blend in a little better.
Yeah.
But everyone has to blend. The high school players have to blend when they go to college. College has to blend in the pros.
How well do you think Brunson in Dallas with a Yogi Ferrell and J.J. Barea
That's, I mean,
Devin Harris.
That makes it even harder.
Well, that's my whole point is, so, I mean, how many guys can you split the ball up between? Because I always tell high school players there's 3 numbers that are not negotiable, 1, 5, and 160. There's 1 ball, there's 5 players, there's 160 minutes. That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing to talk about.
You're not going to get around any of that. And that's the real truth of it. As we know, we keep on, looking down through this process and getting where we are. So it's a little bit of a suspect. You see why that doesn't show right up there at the top. And we're probably not going to get all around it. We want to say congratulations to Hervey there at University of Texas at Arlington, probably the first draft pick they've had to Oklahoma City. Kevin Hervey from Arlington Bowie High School, 6'8", small forward type kid at UT Arlington. The first guy probably drafted in about 30 years, I think, from UT Arlington, all the way back to the days when they were like 6, 7, 8 rounds or whatever it was in those days.
Right. It's a lot harder to get drafted now.
If he can stay healthy, I think he can have a solid 8 to 10, 6 to 8, 8 to 10 year career in the NBA because he shoots the basketball.
Oh, when I went and watched him for Matt, and when I watched him, Alan Gratz, his high school coach, hired me at Plano after I got fired, and I've always kind of watched.
I didn't realize you went over there and worked with Alan.
Yeah, I worked for 2 years with Gratz. Yeah,
Did y'all have Mike single? No, not
we had Christian Jones, we had Lamarck Barnes, we had.
Well, that was a while back. Okay,
we had Devin. Because I was there at 8 years. I was 8 years at GP. So
okay.
This was like 9 and 10 years ago. But anyway, I've always kind of kept an eye on this kid. And one of the things I want to do is, if anyone out there knows who his agent is, I tried to call Gratz today because I want to see if we can get permission to interview him when I'm out in Vegas. That'd be kind of a cool little local twist because I worked at his high school. We can get that right out of the Maverick camp over there. Okay.
Jared Vanderbilt, a very interesting situation. We come back, we're going to be bringing in, talking more NBA basketball and fits. We're going to be bringing in Big E. There, Erven Davis with the Dallas Showtime group right here, Grassroots Basketball, longtime Grassroots Basketball director, operator, and coach. We'll be talking about a lot of things. He's going to spend the second hour with us, so we're going to get a lot of information. We're going to try to balance it out and share the ball around here and, let the ball play a little bit and not get too ball dominant or too mic dominant. What you got to watch in this business? Mic dominant. Back with more Lone Star Sports Show right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. All things sports, all things Texas. Today's show was brought to you by FastMallSports.com. This particular past segment was brought to you by Indy Hoops. Go take a look at IndyHoops.com and see what's going to be going on out at Drive Nation. Teams from all over the country with some of the same guys that you see on this list. We're going to be out there right now. That's just the nature of the business. That's the beauty of grassroots. Back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show.
How do you think these players from across the country compare to the players that's in the Wisconsin area?
Ranked teams, better players, competition, more teams that we got to battle against.
The competition a lot tougher. Like in the Wisconsin area, we get 2, 3 teams that usually compete, and we all just between those 2 or 3 teams who win all the tournaments around there. But this is more different teams. You never know who's gonna win.
Together, I asked them a question: what's the best part about team? And of course, I got all the cliche answers. And I said, no, the best thing about team is your team. Having a bunch of guys that you can depend on and rely on. And this is a type of game where you can't do it by yourself. You have to rely on guys to be there and have your back and work as one.
Well, I tell you what, man, when you sit there and think about
Hey, here we are back here on the Lone Star Sports Show, right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Got Tom Inman, Alan Branch, Lady Life, and the Prince, Under Your Money, keeping us between the lines. But right now we have special guest and well-known Erven Big E Davis with the Dallas Showtime Gorillas, straight out of the jungle, giving it to us like it is on All Things Sports, All Things Texas. A good segment. Big E, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. How y'all doing?
Not bad, not bad. Big E, you're going to get a chance to get a around the globe type opportunity right here. We've been talking about which teams of the Spurs and Lakers and, Spurs and Mavericks and Rockets did best in the draft and which kids got the best fit. I proposed and haven't gotten a lot of challenge out of it that Robert Williams and Zaire Smith may have been two of the kids based out of Texas that may have done the best at finding the best fit. What you have any thoughts about that? Anything that jumps back out? What do you think about a Shake Milton going there? What do you think about Dallas Mavericks pick bringing in the kid that they brought in, Luke Dunsett?
No, I agree with that. Williams, Zaire Smith. I think they both fell into great situations. I mean, with pretty good teams that they can go in and just kind of fit in and be that piece that they need to, just continue to get better.
That's correct.
Don't really have high. They have high expectations for those kids, but they won't be coming in like Dunsink is going to be looked at being almost like a savior for the Mavericks.
Yeah, well, a savior or first or second option type guy,
Yeah, those guys doesn't go fit in, so I think they're in perfect situation. I mean, especially you look at Robert Williams in a situation where that's kind of like one of the missing pieces that Boston needs off that bench.
That's correct. I totally agree, and thought bring one more high basketball IQ into the show here, sitting here with Tom Inman, former retired high school basketball coach from Grand Prairie, won a state championship. He agrees to, and neither one of those guys need the ball in their hand to be successful. So we were just looking through all of the guys that either played in Texas and got drafted or what Texas teams got. One of my biggest questions, I don't know how much y'all got a chance to see him, but Houston Rockets at 46 took DeAnthony Melton, kind of a combo off guard, undersized two guard from USC. Right there. You familiar with what I'm talking about, Big E?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Milton. That West Coast basketball be playing pretty late, so sometimes I don't catch them as much. But I did get to see them a little bit later on during the year when I started paying attention to the tournament.
Right. Yeah. I just didn't think he was, dynamic enough. I'm not even sure what level of pro basketball player. I mean, he might be a G League guy, right?
Well, hey, Biggie, thanks for coming on the show, by the way, and it's good to hear from you. But when I look at that draft, the biggest mistake I think they got lucky because I like Vince Edwards because I think Vince Edwards sort of fills a gap for Houston, sort of the way Robert Williams does for Boston because he doesn't need the ball in his hands. He's a banger. He's Big Ten defender. He's a rebounder, and they could use it. Well, I mean, plus you're not going to get the ball out of James Harden's hands anyway. Jesus Christ! So I mean, that ain't going to happen. You need a crowbar to get that sucker out.
I don't think anybody on the show in the county and the state of the world would argue that point. What do you guys think?
I definitely agree with that.
What do you think about Jared Vanderbilt to Denver?
I think Vanderbilt's in a situation where it's gonna be interesting. I mean, a lot with him going to depend on how healthy Michael Porter is. I mean, you got Michael Porter, Wilson Chandler that kind of play those positions. I mean, how healthy Vanderbilt gets. How ready he is to play right now after almost really not playing a full year in college and missing some of that. I mean, you can look at another situation where a kid is playing a lot of G League minutes.
Right. Yeah. Hey, I got one even better for you. Either one of y'all and anybody that's listening can answer this deal right here. Who in the hell is the team doctor for the Denver Nuggets? They took two suspect guys. They took Michael Porter and Jerry Vanderbilt. Neither one of them ain't played 20 minutes all year long.
Hey, come on, man.
Together.
The team meds for that team up in Denver take on a whole new meaning, man.
Oh,
hey,
that might be what the deal is. We got some stuff up here.
Amphetamines, gummy bears. I don't know. Maybe I grabbed the wrong dish. I don't know.
Hey, maybe they know something we don't know up there in Denver. Something altitude, mix it up with a little can. I don't want to get these guys suggestions.
Hey, one thing about it, that dude to get a big time raise, or he won't be around for long. It's gonna be one or the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's why most of them take the chance, because they figure I'm going to get fired sooner or later anyway. I may as well roll the dice and take a shot, right?
Right. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that in the history of the draft where one team took two guys, one and done guys out of college that spent 85 to 90% of the year injured. Is that about right, Big E?
Well, no, you're right. But, bro, let me say this about them two guys. I think what Denver really did, Denver was already one game away from being in the playoffs. So they really feel like they got a good team, and they feel they can hit a home run on one of those two at-risk players, and it works out.
Yeah.
I mean, man, they really get some value for those picks.
Well, and if you hit both of them, you're a rock star, and if you blow it both of them, you didn't really get crushed because you only took Porter at 12 or 13. You took him at 14, right?
Yeah,
so I mean,
14.
You didn't pay a lot for. You didn't pay that crazy premium.
14,
you have to pay for the top five.
14 and 41. They took two guys, one and done guys that didn't play 10 games between the two of them in NCAA basketball.
But your comment about the doctor, they could say the same thing about the guy in Oklahoma City, because Kevin's had I pray that he doesn't have any more knee injuries, but he's got 2 knee surgeries. So, but they're looking at it the same way. At 57, I'll take a chance.
57. It makes a whole lot more sense when you do it once at 57.
But they did it
really
twice.
Count.
Yeah, they did it twice high.
Yeah, they did it twice higher. Go ahead, Coach.
Let me ask you this, Miranda. This time last year, though, was Michael Porter probably unquestioned the number one player coming out of high school?
I think he was one of three. Yeah.
So he would have been a top 5 draft choice if he wouldn't have got hurt just straight out of high school.
Cost him $10 million is what I read. I'm not sure that that's the gospel, but someone told me it was about a $10 million premium. And it was funny because one of my ex-players works in the scouting department for the Nets, and he always talks about the one and done rule was put in place for the owners to protect themselves from themselves. And they'll use this as their calling card. They'll say, this is exactly why you have the one and done, because that way Michael Porter's got to play 1 year. And if he gets injured that first year, we get him for $3 million, not $13 million, or that type of thing.
Well, that's one way of looking at it.
It's a very cynical perspective, but I'm from Chicago where dead people vote, and I think people screw people over for money.
With your perspective on it, you asked me the question, Big E, what the statement that you were making was that it got him at 14, maybe the same thing that Tom is saying. And if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, he'd been a top 3 pick. So they got a bargain at that deal if it all works out. I agree with everything you're saying. And there's some risk involved in all of that. I didn't want to bother Ed, and I didn't have time to call him David. Ed Pickney is a buddy of mine. That's a assistant coach there with the Nuggets, and just to hear from him, because I never talked to him during the draft, and I guess one reason he didn't call me is he could feel like I didn't know anything about. He knew enough. I didn't know anything about Michael Porter. I do know a lot about Jerry Vanderbilt, but never did talk to Ed about it. Jerry Vanderbilt has some Lamar Odom type poor man version of a Lamar Odom. What do you think about that? You know him, Big E. Passer.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. Unfortunately, we haven't really been able to see him play a lot the last couple of years, but I feel like he was a very, very good player when I saw him play a couple of years ago, and could do everything, really fit into the modern day NBA.
Yeah. I tell you who is even more like, and I never even thought about this. He like the kid from Australia with the 76ers, Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Old school.
He might rebound it a little bit better than Ben. Neither one of them shoot it great, and both of them pass it well.
Right.
The more you think about it, sometimes we think about players, we can't take the hype off of things to really analyze what a player really is. So we might be looking at one player that's number 5 in the country, another player that's 105 in the country, and when you really break them down and you pull all the labels off of them and you start to really look at it, you've seen that before, huh, E? Where you just start looking at the player for what he is and not for what the hype says he is.
Wouldn't it be fun if we could sequester the NBA people, like when they sequester a jury so you can't listen to the news, you can't read the newspaper and all this stuff. If you could just take about it and do a blind drop. I want you to watch these 30 players. Just tell me what you think. No hype, nobody buys anyone's services, no one does any favors. Just what do you think? it'd be interesting because sometimes I think it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everyone's been saying he's great, so he must be great, and okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the old Wonder bread, Miss Barrett's bread thing. We just laid 2 slices of bread out there. Can you tell the difference between the two of them?
Most not. No,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
I asked Matt one time. I said if I got half of my draft picks right, if I was an NBA personnel guy and I got half of my picks right, would I get fired? He said, Coach, if you got half of them right, you'd be a rock star.
Yeah.
You can. It's like baseball. You could be wrong 70% of the time. They still think you don't suck.
Well, and it's about the success that you have for being right that third of the time.
As long as your 30% outweighs your 70% negative, they don't care.
Well, your 30% is going to make so much money that it covers the 70% of wrong.
Exactly.
You know, as they say, it covers a multitude of sin. But yeah, we're right here as we get ready to wind down on the segment. When we come back with Big E, we're going to dive in here and talk about what it was like in the jungle and had that music bumping over in the corner like you had it bumping and kids playing. I thought kids played hard. You know, I mean, the can plays played hard and the can't plays were playing hard. I enjoyed it all weekend long. You had 33 17U teams right there at Duncanville Fieldhouse. Great venue to go in and look and chime in and take a look at things. And so when we come back from the break, why don't you just tell us about when the tournament first started, when you first started into the business, and then we're gonna get on down to the nitty gritty of some of the things that are going on in grassroots and college basketball right now. We're right here at the Lone Star Sports. So we got our special guest, Big E Erven Davis with the Dallas Showtime Gorillas, the Jungle, right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Tom Em and Alan Branch, Lady Life, and my main man, Ani the Prince, back in 182nd with more Lone Star Sports Show. Hey, here we are at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. Right here, all things sports, all things Texas. Today's show is brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. FastSmallSports.com putting us into the 21st century through the vehicle of technology in the game of basketball, located right there in the windy city of Chicago, Illinois. Go take a look at FastSmallSports.com if you want to know more about it and see how to leading us through the vehicle of technology and provide an opportunity for kids. That's one of the things that we got right here. We got Big E Erven Davis, a guy that has for 13 plus years, even prior to the organization, so that's why I give him 13 plus. It's probably closer to about 17 years that I've known Big E, that he's been a part of the grassroots basketball operation, with running his own program as a program director with the Dallas Showtime. Almost call them the Grizzlies, I guess, but Dallas Showtime Gorillas, straight out of the jungle. The jungle is a deep heart of Oak Cliff.
I'm a white guy. I ain't saying that word. You couldn't bait me into saying that word in a month of Sundays. My white ass ain't saying none of that shit. Y'all can say it all you want.
Hey, you see what happened to Roseanne when she said it?
Hey, I'm not on the ambient, and I do not say stupid shit. Y'all just keep talking. I'll jump right in when it's politically freaking correct. Sorry, my bad. My bad. I am not getting that. That ain't happening to me.
Gotta get the beat button out. Gotta get the beat button
Sorry,
out.
man. I apologize.
No, you all right, man.
I hijacked
hey, that was worth it. But no. Big E has been doing the community a long time favor. You started out with the University of North Texas there in Denton, Texas, with men's basketball with Johnny Jones and what was going on there, and actually came back as a GA and got your second degree there at North Texas doing that process. Is that about right?
Yeah, man. I actually started out with Vic Trilly.
Okay, with Vic Trilly. Okay.
I was on the front cover of the deal. We were talking about one of the top youngest staffs coming in with Vic Trilly, Chris Beard, Melvin Harrison,
right? Yeah.
Guy named Nate Sheehan. So I was with those guys.
Okay, you got broke into the process. That's pretty good.
Yeah, just kind of rolled in there with Johnny after that.
Okay, so. Yep. That's exactly right. It's funny. I was at the golf course with Ron. I can't think of Ron's first name. You know Ron. I used to be at Redbird at the Rec Center all the time. You know
yeah. I know Ron. Yeah.
Ron was talking about you this morning. You and Melvin Harrison this morning. We were at the golf course early this morning, and he was talking about this. Vic Trilly and that whole operation. So starting from there, you roll yourself into grassroots basketball. So, around that time, you had guys like Snoop Johnson and Jazzy and various guys who were involved. So prior to for the last 15 years, you've been running Dallas Showtime, but prior to those 2000 and I guess that would be 2003 or 4. Prior to that time, how did you spend your time in grassroots basketball before you started Dallas Showtime?
Well, I got a chance when I first got in there to get in with a woman by the name of Elaine Jones. I know you're familiar with.
Okay. Yep.
I traveled with them when they had my brother Chris Davis and.
Yeah. Well, you make an old man room. I'll tell y'all the real story on that.
Talik Brown and Ivan McFarland. Big time thing. Yeah, that really got my juices going being around them.
Yeah, the real story was that Big E's brother couldn't go if Big E didn't go and watch the situation. and I'm gonna tell y'all another story. Had 2 kids from New York back then. This was before the Boring State rule. What was that kid's name? Tyreek. You were there, Coach. What was his name?
Talik Brown, and I forgot the other kid, man.
Right. Well, Dane Erven had to come down. That's how Dane Erven, who's a grassroots scout for the Southwest region for Nike now, he came down. He had to watch those kids because they were younger and my man is on TNT with Shaq and those guys, the guard that played at
Kenny Smith?
Rock. Yeah, Kenny Smith. Kenny Smith was at the bottom of sending all the New York kids to Missy Lane. And Big E and Snoop Johnson was a guy that was getting all the kids because Snoop Johnson was cutting his teeth in the grassroots coaching time during that time. That's all come together. I remember this now. So Big E, they'd all bring the Houston guys down and they put them all. It was called Houston Jaguars. Is that right, E?
Houston Jaguars. That parlayed me to going over there with Horace Coleman and Rob Wright and Dave Britton that's when we got the group with Chris Ogden and
who's the head coach?
And the head coach from UTA now, and
hey, you want to hear a funny?
Some of those guys, Charles Tatum from down there in Midland, and some of them. So
here's a funny twist on the AAU stuff is that when I did my student teaching at South Oak Cliff in '88 and '89. When Alfredo Porter and a bunch of guys, Alfredo Porter and Vernon Jenkins and Joe Davis and a bunch of people were there, and that was the first year that they allowed AAU basketball. It was like you could have
in Texas, right?
It was Slam and Jam, and it was Steve Land down at the Moreland Y, and it was with Rob and Morris and all those guys you just mentioned. I know Dave and all those guys forever and everything. So
that's when they first got kicked off. Now Big E was too young for all of that.
Yeah, you're
but no, I was right there with Steve Land. I mean, because Steve Land was it used to not be where everybody had their own team. Everybody was gonna play Slam and Jam,
right? Exactly.
And then you were gonna pick your 3 teams from there to go to Vegas and do all that.
Right.
And that's where everybody was going.
We're with like Thomas Hill and Baron Brown and a bunch of guys. I mean, think about this. I'm retired now. Baron just got my job. He's 47, and he was the first year that these guys could come. So I mean, it's all 30 years ago. These kids couldn't even go to camps.
No. I remember a Mike Dicker football camp. We were all wound up to go. And Rabbit Thomas told us we couldn't go to the Mike Dicker football camp. It was $2.75, and everybody had to get their refund to go to camp. This was back in 1975, 76. And so all doing UIL sports, they never allowed you totally forfeited all your varsity eligibility by participating in this.
Well, I was telling someone I grew up in Chicago, and everyone was giving me this local stuff, and I'm proud of Chicago basketball, but it's not better than Dallas basketball. And back in the '80s, no one knew a lot about the Dallas kids and Houston kids because they couldn't get national attention because they couldn't go to camps and play AAU. And I told my friends, I said, guys, look, if they're putting out the kind of football players that they put out every year in Texas, don't think for a minute they couldn't put out the same basketball players that they just decided to play freaking basketball.
Oh,
well, here we are 30 years later. Yeah. It's level.
Right. And it's just such a huge state. I mean, we're 26, 28 million people in the state. I mean, what is a tight end and a defensive end and offseason power forward in Texas?
Exactly.
So I mean,
you're right.
You also just had the #1 pick in the NFL draft this past year, didn't you, E? 2 years ago.
Miles Garrett.
Miles Garrett.
Yeah. Miles Garrett didn't actually play for me. I mean, he played a tournament or two.
Okay.
But I wouldn't claim him as a gorilla. You know, but he did moonlight in the Showtime uniform. Though.
Man, yeah, you ain't like them Houston guys, boy. All you gotta do in Houston is put the uniform on for one game. You ain't gotta be the whole weekend. You can get pissed off in one game and go switch, and you get drafted. You make the alumni list.
Oh yeah, I see it all the time. I see it all the time.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, no doubt about that.
The kid from UTA, I mean, I don't say a lot about him, but he played for us for his first couple years before he got hurt. You know, he was a part of our program, Kevin Hervey.
Yeah,
so
Kevin Hervey.
We done had some people, but he finished up with the Mustang, so, you know.
Yeah.
He's a Mustang alum.
Yep, he's a Mustang alum. He fought through. He was when I first located that kid, he was on the second team with the Dallas Mustang.
Yeah.
He wasn't even on the main team, you know. But, I mean, he was a late bloomer type kid or whatever, But, you know, all this brings me around, okay, you know, 13 years you've been running running the program. This was the 10th anniversary of the Dallas Showtime Classic, which is held every last full weekend in June. Of those 10 years, I don't think I would venture to say if I had to be a gambling man, I've been at 8 of the 10 of them. I know probably for the last 5 or 6 years I haven't missed one. But, you know, it always coming back from NBA camp. And Jazzy has his event with Erven DFW. Elite in the very next weekend or 2 weekends. Actually, they used to be back to back, and they got moved around a little bit this year, I think. But
yeah, we try to push it a week apart now, and try to give it a little gap.
Okay, give a little bit of a break. And I tell you what, man, the intensity and what you get there, you know, and well, I don't want to brainstorm on the air. We'll talk about it later. There's got to be a way to regionally include the rest of the world in the intensity that goes on during that time. And we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out. We've come a long way so far, and I think it has, you know. It's about like everything else. You know what you told us when we were talking politics and sports early? It's about the money.
Always.
If we figure out the money, I bet you we can get it right.
Hey, what did those guys say Hey, what did they say in Watergate? You know, all the president's men, right? When they met with Deep Throat, he said, follow the money. Right?
Follow the money.
Don Ohlmeyer, as the answer to everything, The money.
Yeah.
Always the money, man.
Get the money right. Everybody can keep on getting the money they're supposed to get. Everybody might can figure that
Get the
out.
money right, you can figure it out. Yeah, get the money right, you can figure it out.
That brings to the deal that obviously, you've done a tremendous job over the years, 160, 170 plus college prospects of kids that have gone on out of your program in 13 years, not even including the other 4, 5, 6, 7 years that you were involved in grassroots basketball and mentoring kids. We've easily been probably around, I would say, 300 plus prospects over the years, and you know what one looks like, and you know what's needed to get a kid on to the next level. And now we sit right here, and I don't know how familiar you are with it, E. I know you got some idea about Condoleezza Rice's committee, or a committee that was started up on the Committee on College Basketball. I know, obviously, you know all about all the FBI scandal, and we'll talk more about that when we come back from the break. But
Yeah.
I guess the thing that I want to put on the table, with everything that's going on, I mean, you just look at all the SEC stuff, you look at the Pony Express deal, and all the scandals and point-shaving things that you've seen, and we're going to go to a break. We come back, we're going to say, what the hell why is grassroots basketball the scapegoat or having to fall on the sword for all the things going on? We cut grassroots summer basketball out, then we'll clean up all the recruiting scandals. That's what we're talking about here, E, when it all comes down. So we come back from the break right here at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. We're going to take a hard, clean look at it for the next 2 segments as we close out today on why is it grassroots basketball's fault. Lone Star Sports Show right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Giving it to you like it is. All things sports, all things Texas. Today's show is brought to you by FastballSports.com. This particular segment was brought to you by Harlem Hotels Investment and Development, located in the Bayou City of Houston, Texas. Put your money where you sleep. Go take a look at HarlemHotels.com and see how you can have a good investment opportunity through the vehicle of Harlem Hotels. Back at 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show. Got special guest, Big E Erven Davis, right from the Drungle, the leader of the Gorillas. Dallas Showtime at its best. Hey, we are back here at the Lone Star Sports Show right here in the heart of North Texas, right here in Oak Cliff, Texas. Getting in, Tom Emmon, Alan Branch, Lady Life, Honey the Prince, and special guest, Big E. Erven Davis with Dallas Showtime, the lead and the director of Dallas Showtime's many grassroots programs. I think roughly about 9 teams. They go all the way down to about 10, 11U, all the way up to 17U, multiple teams and various deals based out of, I would say, Oak Cliff, Texas. They practice right there at Duncanville Fieldhouse quite a bit and move all around. But they service the whole, I would say, northern sector of Texas with kids coming from as far away as Sulphur Springs and East Texas, Tyler, Texas, and sometimes back out to West Texas, and then far south as Waco sometimes, all coming to be a part of the Dallas Showtime program. Coach, I'm pretty accurate on that. That's what I had a chance to observe over all my years of watching. That you've had.
You're pretty accurate. As far as Lubbock, as far as Waco, as Midland and all that, and like you say, Silver Springs, East Texas, Tyler.
Yeah.
That's pretty much us.
Yeah, had a kid. I think about old Gary Tipper though. He was a Tyler kid, but had multiple kids that have had opportunities through the vehicle of grassroots basketball in the shape and form of Dallas Showtime. 13 years of actual existence of the Dallas Showtime program, Dallas Showtime Elite being the premier flagship program from there. Produces roughly 7, 8, 9 players off his roster that go on to college. Probably right now, I would say there are probably 4 to 5 solid Division I player prospects that'll play somewhere that are on that roster, and a competitive team that's right in the middle of the process of being evaluated and recruited and being competitive at winning and losing in the state of Texas regionally and nationally. You see them all the way to Las Vegas. But, as much as we can sit here and talk about it, and it's always fun to talk about the fun stuff and all the success that Big E has had and program and all the kids. But now let's take a look at how this thing could be looking different. I'm going to throw some things out there. None of this stuff is confirmed or actually been, I'm going to lay my disclaimer that nothing has been confirmed or actually put in stone or turned into a bylaw or any rules have been changed. These are all rumored proposals, we'll call them. Now, one fact that we do know is that the NCAA created a committee, committee for college basketball, led by Condoleezza Rice. There's another gentleman on there, I can't call his name, from UCLA. You have David Robinson and the Calvin Hill's son that played over Grant Hill. They played at Duke on the deal, and some other people, that have all come together. All this was incited by the FBI scandal that supposedly has gone bad now because the FBI ended up being dirty on their investigation, or their investigator ended up being dirty. So that thing is all over the place. But at the end of the day, it looks like the grassroots basketball could potentially, allegedly, rumored, could take a hickey or take a bump on the head at the opportunity being provided for kids through the vehicle of grassroots basketball. You say, well, how did that look, Alan Branch? They're projecting somewhere between August the 1st, probably as late as August the 7th or 8th, that a proposal will become from this committee that will suggest that April evaluation would continue at the traditional rate, and all this is still under evaluation. July would be totally wiped out. Roughly about 100 to 200 kids would be chosen for July, and those kids would be allowed to go to one situation where the NCAA would run it, and then they would let the NCAA college coaches come and watch those kids only.
I got one phrase: law of unintended consequences.
Say it again?
The law of unintended consequences. Because now what you're going to do is you're going to take those 200 people. Now, who gets to recommend those 200 people?
Right.
And who has the access to the information? And who's connected with Nike and who's connected with Under Armour?
And by the way, Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour are going to be totally excluded from any of these live events.
Okay, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that tomorrow.
The one word I want to say is once you choose those 200 people, my kid is, and I want to say lawsuit.
Well, who's the 201st kid? Who's the first kid that gets?
Who makes those kids be the 200 kids? What denies my kid the opportunity to be seen in front of those people? Why is my kid discriminated against being a part of that culture that they selected? I mean, what's the criteria?
I got a bigger one from you than that. They're taking and excluding that number 201 and 202 out of the opportunity. That kid comes from a household that's a tax-paying household, and they're allowing certain state institutions that get federal and state money to go out but the 201, 202 kid doesn't get an equal opportunity of that.
Yeah, but that's kind of like saying if I make sure that a guy goes to church 4 nights a week, he'll never go to the whorehouse the other 3 nights. That's what that's saying.
Why is that?
Well, because I mean, we're going to clean up college basketball because if these guys can't come cheat in the summer, they'll just not cheat.
Well, I mean,
come on, man.
But
if the kid's good enough, they're going to pay the kid, and they're going to find a way to pay the kid.
But you jumping the gun. You're first of all, you're 110% right. You're just a little ahead of track. That's the whole point of the matter, and I guess Big E will get. I mean, E, you and I both, between the two of us, been doing this for over 50 years probably. And and spend all this time in Vegas and all these other places that we've been. Cheating is not going on in Vegas. Everybody's just watching kids play basketball.
They're babysitting and they're just making sure that everyone sees them.
Yeah.
An evaluation process, and that's what's going on. And kids are getting an opportunity to play in front of guys to prove they can play or can't play.
Hey, do y'all remember that night when Simeon played DeSoto over at Grand Prairie's gym? Do you remember that, Biggie? I don't know if you were over there that night.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Do you think for 1 minute that Tom Izzo and Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams really wanted to be sitting in my freaking gym? They didn't want that anymore, but they had to do it because if one of them didn't show, then the other two get to say, see, they're not very serious about you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're forced to coddle a bunch of egomaniacs, and you're absolutely right because all you're doing is confirming and finalizing the deal in July. You're not evaluating nothing.
No, there's
for the younger kids, yes.
Well, see, that's why I think that it did might pass because either Izzo's and Krzyzewski's and all them, they don't want to do all that.
That's what happened last April because they got the budget to go run around the high school. You're right. Go ahead, E.
Yeah. See, the guys at Oklahoma State and all them, they got to show you that I'll work you. Now they don't get that opportunity.
Well, how about,
they don't get the opportunity to outwork you because now you've cutting down all those opportunities.
Well, really, if you think about it, the Vegas, when Vegas first started out and it was smaller, basically what you had was the opportunity for a small, like a mid-major or a low-major or a Division II school to go out there, send 2 coaches, maybe spend $3,000 on the whole day, and they got a lot of bang for their buck, right? Well, Krzyzewski's got a private jet, at his disposal. So you can change any rule you want for him and Calipari. Hell, Buzz Williams has got his own private jet. But for the people in the middle, that's who they're going to ace out of that deal.
Well, I mean, that's what it all comes down to. One plane ticket, one to rent a car, and one hotel room, and I get a chance to see 100 kids, or I go to Dallas and try to make it to 2 or 3 high schools for the same amount of budget.
Right, and all that will happen is, all right, so let's say that right now some of the summer league guys have taken advantage of the situation and they've manipulated a few deals and gotten paid. Okay, so let's say they ice you guys out. All that's going to happen is the basketball coaches at a high school are going to do the same thing. Yeah. Because I've been one of these football coaches. I said, you all are going to get your AAU. Your 7-on-7 is your next nightmare because you can't control what's coming down the street.
And Nike jumped into the 7-on-7 deal, and it's a high level business. But the point is that they're making the kids.
Brett, what I want to ask you though, what happened to the kid? I'm just going to use him from an example. What happens to the kid like Kobe Williams who doesn't go to a mainstream high school? Mm-hmm. No one would know. How does he get into that top 200 where he's even able to get evaluated?
He has absolutely not a snowball's chance of getting to that.
And who's going to come out Can Academy just because Big E say, "Oh yeah, it's a kid over there that can play"?
Coach,
I mean, you just robbing kids of opportunities. I just think that's going to be a problem.
I mean, that's going to be a problem. You 100% right, but you're not going to get any respect out of the situation until that it can be that it can be expressed or disseminated or explained or demonstrated with the world looking at that there's a legal nature of inequality of what certain kids are getting opportunity for versus other kids not. And so nobody can argue. Traditionally, you all eliminating 75% of the kids that have gotten scholarships in the past. Roughly 1,400 kids get Division I scholarships every year, and we're saying that we're only going to allow roughly 200 of them to be evaluated by college coaches.
You're highly politicizing those 200 spots. You're making the relative value of all those 200 spots right through the roof. It's the Bitcoin of the future, right? You don't even know what the hell it's worth, but if there's only 200 people doing what 10,000 people used to do in the summer, it's worth a lot more than it used to be worth.
Well, I mean,
No, you're right.
but who's taking over it? I mean, the NCAA is projected to be going to operate this situation for their member institutions.
Hey, the year that we won state in 2006, I got a chance to work the last Nike camp where they had 140 of the players come in. There was a whole bunch of high school basketball coaches from Ohio that just ran that thing. And then they ran it because they were from Akron and they were from Dayton and they were LeBron's people. And they ran that thing and they still run that thing. Like Costa Kofis, the kid that plays for Sacramento, I had him at that camp. And Costa's a nice kid. And he's a 7-foot jump shooting stretch candy ass. And at the end of the day, if he'd grown up in New Hampshire or if he grew up in Arkansas, we would have never known his name.
Yep, I mean, and it happens. It happens all the time. But how are you going to justify eliminating roughly 1,100 kids from a process? And I got one even bigger from you. And all due respect, Lady Life, one of our ladies on staff here. Why is it that women's basketball gets 3 of these open live periods to participate in?
Yeah.
And there's not an issue with that.
Because the money, it's always the answer.
The money, coach. You back talking about the money again.
You don't
women's
make as much money,
basketball,
so you can't pay as much money, so you can't bribe with as much money, so there's less interest in as much money, so we're more thorough of our evaluations, and there's no end game. Because there's nobody, even Skylar Diggins is beautiful. She's marketable as hell, and she ain't selling diddly crap.
Yeah,
she
I mean,
ain't
not in
tickets,
comparison.
much less shoes and,
Right.
and
I mean,
gear.
they're out there playing.
Comparison, right?
Yeah, in
You're
comparison.
it's a JV league. Let's be honest. I know
Because
it's not popular to say.
NCAA wants to control all the money. I mean, just think, even when we have to get certified, it's $55 at one point. But if you wait and you want to rush and do it during the live period, all of a sudden it jumps up to $160-something.
Hey, well, Biggie, what about if you want to be an agent? It only costs you $1,800, and they just have to prove you're not a felon. That's all.
And my program spends almost $2,000 just to prove that my coaches are liable to volunteer to coach kids.
Yeah, that's about right. That's exactly right.
You know,
we're about to run to a break here, Big E. We're really breaking down and looking at this thing. We verified the fact of all things that we've all done. All 3 parties involved in this session right here have all put kids in college through the vehicle of basketball, and now we're changing the process. I'm just wondering, how does something like this stand? When we come back, that's what we're going to take a real hard look at, is how can something like this be fair? How can it survive? And where does this thing go from now? We want to project and brainstorm about that. And then what kind of alternatives can we come up to continuously help kids? I guess the scouting service guy got to work 23 hours a day now just to keep up with the whole process.
Better you than me, man.
bring on more staff. We're right here at the Lone Star Sports Show in the heart of North Texas, doing what it does right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Tom Em and Alan Branch, Lady Life and Anita Prince, and special guest Big E, Erven Davis with Dallas Showtime. Back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show. Back here at the Lone Star Sports Show. I'd like to say right here, we down in the paint on a Tuesday, not even basketball Thursday, but we got some basketball issues. Got to just getting over the draft. We talked about the Dallas Cowboys. Should have had Big E in here for that. Big E and Cowboys.
Oh, man.
Yeah. We had it all broke down. We're looking at trying to figure out how we're going to stabilize that passing game. We got a good offensive line, got solid running game, and got a solid quarterback. Can we overcome it, Big E? Get 30 seconds of Dallas Cowboy from you.
Oh man, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. I mean, we got one of the best offensive lines in football. We're gonna have Zeke all year.
Yep.
And I think Prescott. I think it's gonna take a lot of pressure off of him not trying to force that ball into one person or two people. I mean, he's gonna spread that thing around.
One more quick deal. What's your evaluation on the receiver from the Rams they took in? Trevon, I think is his name.
He's a second, third receiver, but I mean, like I said, he's going to be one of the ones. He's going to be one of the pieces that we can move around to different places.
You got 5'8", 100.
Yeah, kind of like how we did with Lance Dunbar.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Terrence Williams still got a little more gas in the tank.
I'm a big Terrence Williams fan. Okay. I just think he's been underused.
Yeah. Who do they have can stretch the offense? Stretch the defense?
You know, that right there, that's a big issue. I mean, I'm hoping that rookie that we got can stretch a little bit. I'm hoping we can get Big Rico Gallas out there.
No,
that tight end.
Big Rico ain't going to make it, Coach. Big Rico, hell of a power forward, but Big Rico ain't worth shit at tight end, Coach.
That's what I was going to say, because the Rico, he really loves football. He just go out and just do it just because, you know, he just wasn't sure basketball was going to make it.
Hey, he needs to send Antonio Gates about 20% of every dollar he ever made in football. Because that's why they drafted it.
I think
that was the comp on
because
him.
we had a bunch of guys, you know, Hal Pastner had a kid that went out to Arizona, didn't make it, came back to U of H and playing in the NFL right now. So after the Antonio Gathers and the Gonzalez kid.
All right, Tony.
Okay.
Tony Gonzalez, that set a trend that a guy could just automatically migrate from power forward to tight end.
Automatically, right?
Yeah, you could be a decent college power forward and be a 10-year veteran in the NFL at tight end.
I would imagine Gronk can probably hoop.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, most dudes can play hoop. I mean, it's just a culture. But who is the wide receiver you talking about, Coach?
We drafted one like in the second round, I think. I forgot his name, Michael something.
Hey, I got one for you. How about a devil's advocate idea? They say Julio Jones is unhappy with his contract.
Oh, no, you're talking about Malik Earl. Is that what I think that would be him, yeah. Malik Earl or Marchie.
I forgot the kid's name.
Right, yeah.
He was a second, third round draft choice.
Hey, Biggie, would the Cowboys be able to maneuver and pay a Julio Jones? Because Julio Jones might come on the open market. They say he's unhappy with his contract, and that would be a great stretch guy because you need someone to stretch the field.
Shit, man. Julio Jones one of the top two or three receivers in the.
Okay, well Jerry Jones is
right?
big.
You know what?
Spend the damn money and get
that'd be great. I just don't see Atlanta letting him come to Dallas. I don't think they would.
Jerry needs to stop talking about the labor and start showing people the freaking baby.
You're talking about Michael Gallup.
Michael Gallup. Yeah, that's the key.
There you go, Michael Gallup.
Colorado State. Yeah,
Colorado, right?
Yeah, Colorado State.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a third round pick. Yeah, I mean third round draft choice. 81st pick in the deal. Yeah, Michael Gallup.
Yeah.
You know, I actually saw some tape on him during the draft. I did study up on this exactly what he is. No, a lot of promise at what some of the things you're talking about based on the research that I did. That was a while back. That was back when. That was before Snoop Johnson left.
Hey, promise and potential will get you fired. Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody had. I mean, Dak Prescott was promising potential at some point in time.
If he has 2 bad years in a row last year and next year, you guys will start looking for your next quarterback. Don't bullshit anyone here. That ain't gonna last forever.
I don't want to get too much on Prescott, but he should have been sitting one more year.
Well, you know,
I think the Cowboys would be in a lot better shape.
What I was telling Alan, you know, the biggest favor they could do him was try to buy a backbone for Jason Garrett and actually act like a coach and tell him what to do instead of letting him do whatever he wants, which is what Tony Romo did for the last 7 or 8 years. And give the kid some direction and put him in a position to win.
I don't tell y'all what. Y'all talking about Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett got an Ivy League degree and hadn't missed a check yet, and ain't been sacked about 2 or 3 times in the whole process. So he's staying right there in the whole process. He's a get along, go along type guy. Rah rah rah. Let's go, baby. You know, he's always right there on top of it.
Hey, the three faces of Jason. Hey, if I did this right now, I would be completely fired. The
we're going to censor.
Get the beat button out. You got to hear the uncut version. What he's talking about.
The uncut version of this one would make you piss on yourself. It's funny.
Jason Garrett, but you know that's the whole deal. But yeah, no, Michael Gallup is a guy that can turn it around. I think the Cowboys have a chance to be Where's the defense? We didn't talk defense tonight, but just real quick, defense as good
We
as
got to go get
last year.
Earl Thomas, though.
I like that. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yep. So
We got to get Earl Thomas to show up that middle. We get him, I think we on our way defensively.
Well, and Sean Lee is just so critical. As soon as he got hurt, that was letting the air out of the balloon. They were never the same last year when Sean Lee got hurt, and it's just it's a tough position to play and not get hurt. You're a linebacker. You're going to hit people. You're going to get beat up.
Where else but Dallas, Texas, in the heart of North Texas, in Oak Cliff, Texas, in the middle of June, could
Three basketball guys talking about football.
Dallas Cowboy football take over a basketball scandal crisis situation. The kids ain't gonna be able to go to school no more. We talking about damn Dallas Cowboy.
They had to fire us all, man. They should fire us all.
They should fire us all, boy. Or either Jerry Jones owes us a cut or something.
Yeah, man. I'll take
That's
1%.
good.
Yeah.
I'll take 1%.
But, you know, when you look at it at the end of the situation, I think we just got to get creative. I saw this happen back to the basketball situation, not for the same reasons. And I wonder if this whole thing is just not these high-level guys not wanting the University of Texas and the Texas A&Ms and the Oklahoma States to be able to compete with them or not for the high-level guys. We're going to exclude and put these guys over here in one little circle, and we're going to just kind of separate the deal where there's not anything going on. I mean, you know, guys want to make all these projections. Grassroots basketball has nothing to do with cheating. I mean, let's just be honest about it. And it has nothing to do with cheating. So it has nothing to do with the scandal. It has not one accusation that took place during the so-called FBI thing that went on, where everybody was losing their mind about, 3 months ago or whatever it was. Right. Actually, went all the way back to October, when it first came out. None of that had anything to do with grassroots basketball. You're talking about agents. I mean, you know, grassroots basketball coaches it's not that kind of party. I mean, I just don't understand. I'm looking at you, Tom, because Big E is not here to look at, but Big E knows where I'm coming from. We've been around this stuff a long time, man. Yeah, cheating goes on. Yeah, people pay money for players. But grassroots basketball doesn't create an environment. Man, the only time that you can pay for a player now, you got to make sure that you're in Las Vegas, or either you got to be at one. You got 21 days in the year that you can buy a player. But you can't buy a player those other 300.
It's funny you say that, because I used to listen to Jerry Tarkanian, and, you know, Tark surfed the edge on all the rules and everything, and he used to always play the Father Flanagan thing, you know, Father Flanagan from Boys Town.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just here to help the underprivileged black youth of America. So, of course, I'm a sarcastic, cynical person. I said, well, then why don't you give Urkel a scholarship? Why do you only give it to the 6'9" guys that can run and jump? If you really want to help the black youth of America, give every single one of them, every knock-kneed, buck-toothed knucklehead in town gets a scholarship. Well, come on, man.
Yeah.
Quit blowing smoke up
we
our
know
skirt.
it's all about basketball. Well, back to the reality of the situation is, my question is that how a kid's going to be eliminated the process. And a lot of people say, and I had a guy to bring this up to me the other day, real smart business guy, very successful business guy. I guess that makes him smart. We were talking. He said, Branch, how many kids get scholarships, and how much money do you make, and this, that, and the other? He said, you know, you make money doing grassroots basketball. So some people could say, well, Alan Branch, you jumped up and down because you're going to lose money, an opportunity to lose money. In some form or fashion, I'll lose some money here and I'll make some money somewhere else. Because as long as college basketball doesn't go anywhere, there's going to be value in the evaluation.
You'll be the foot soldier for the guy that can no longer go out and evaluate.
Right, yeah.
They have to pay you more because now they got to pay for your expenses and your expertise.
Right. I got to write more reports, and I got to be more thorough. I do those things. But my point comes down to is that the environment that's being created is presenting opportunity. Is there a whole lot of money being made? Yes, there is. But when you look at the amount of money that's being spent, no, it's not proportional, because there are a lot of people trying to play youth sports and playing summer grassroots basketball that have absolutely no chance of getting a basketball scholarship.
Well, they dangle the fruit in front of they dangle the carrot on the stick, which is.
I don't think they dangle. I mean, you know what the dangle of the carrot on the stick is?
What's that?
Them basketball games on ESPN. That's what makes guys come in and line up and want to be a part of this process. What do you think, E? Why do kids want to play basketball?
I agree with what you said, and I just looked at this past weekend. I mean, I felt like I had a really successful tournament.
You did.
But it was two other tournaments within a 40-mile radius. It was over 300-something teams playing between those three tournaments. So,
right. So it's just youth basketball, right?
Yeah, regardless, people are going to play basketball. When they tried to close April off, people still play basketball. I mean, it's not going to stop anything with youth basketball with what they're talking about doing.
Yeah.
And those people still have the same influence over the same kids.
Yep. No.
Well, if you look at basketball players from a supply and demand perspective, right? There's always going to be a demand for those players because there's so much money to be made. And no matter how much the risk is to anyone who's supplying those players, you can make it as draconian as you want to, but someone's going to take a chance. So if there's millions of dollars to be made by the head coach, and that means that it's worth spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to get that kid to come play for you, they'll find a way.
And you're spending $100,000.
They'll find a way.
Spending $100,000.
Hey, Cody, you know the reason why it's causing so much to play for him, because that kid really is a kid that wants to go straight to the NBA, but you got this rule that makes him go to school when you know he's not a college player. I mean, 1 year of college does not help that kid.
Well, and you know that the Kofis kid I was telling you about that went to Ohio State, and he was interviewing agents in December. Well, first of all, you weren't that good, and second of all, that's kind of disingenuous.
That's one of the new rules they're getting ready to come out with too. While we're throwing all these rumors out, and I say trying to come out, all this stuff we're talking about is rumored, and legitimately rumored. But they also are talking about allowing the kids to go ahead as soon as they get to college, go ahead and get an agent. Registered at the registrar's office.
They let baseball players and hockey players do it. Why not?
Let me ask you this, Brent. I mean, in a couple sports where and I'm gonna go on a limb on it. I mean, I think it's kind of
exactly where you're going. We all agree with you. Go ahead and say it. Right.
Dominated by African Americans. Why are those the two sports that they're not allowed to go pro? Where they're not allowed to get paid.
Yeah. You could take a white baseball player or a hockey player and go get a really, really shitty job making $600 a week or $600 a month riding around on a bus. They don't say anything about that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's all.
I mean, look at the unique deal that happened for Kyler Murray. I mean, he's able now because of baseball, he's able to get paid but still be able to play football.
Hey, by the way, I got a great a good joke or a way you can win a bar bet. Who's the last Heisman Trophy winner to not be a scholarship basketball or football player? It happened in the state of Texas. You'll never lose this bet. I'm giving this away. I should never say this online. Ricky Williams, because he played professional baseball, so he wasn't a scholarship football player.
Yep.
How's that for
right. That's exactly right. So we got to take a look at it. We're going to keep on, see how this thing breaks down. We winding down. We have run out of time. Lone Star Sports Show. We want to give the ultimate thanks to the Dallas Showtime organization for allowing us to have roughly 45 minutes of Big E, the director's time, and coming on talking about his experience. And we just got to pray and keep on working, keep on providing opportunities. When things get rough, we just get creative and come up with the next way and wave how we can continue to support. And the thing comes down is, how are you going to produce 200 more college prospects, Big E? How are we going to manage that process? How are we going to figure it out with there being no July and the opportunity we have? We just got to take the resources that we was putting in plane tickets and turn around and promote the kids in a different way. Lone Star Sports Show right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. All brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. We'll be back on this coming Thursday, Basketball Thursday. We'll probably be talking more football on Basketball Thursday because we're getting closer and closer to the preseason. Back this next Thursday coming up in 2 days. We'll be live at Drive Nation with Indy Hoops right there with the best 8th graders, some of the best 7th and 8th graders in the country right there. We'll be covering that event and what's going on, interviewing some kids and talking about the whole process. We'll see y'all back on the Lone Star Sports Show then. Thanks again, Big E. Tom, have a good evening. Lady Life, Under Your Money, the Prince. Let's do it again.